There we go. Okay, I should be on. I'm not quite sure here what's going on, but it shows me as on. It shows me as streaming. It shows me as there I am. Okay. Every so often there's that little lovely thing. It's sort of like being part of the Twilight Zone. I keep expecting Rod Serling to show up at any minute and tell me that I've just entered the Twilight Zone. But we're all here and we're all good. Hey, I see a few folks already gathering. As usual, we're going to kind of get a start on things. I'm going to show you a few resources I'm going to use tonight um, so that you can end up seeing them. And I'm also going to see what you're seeing, but I want to kind of do this. I haven't quite done the backpack thing. And I'm sort of doing it a little Hebrew. I'm doing it in the wrong direction here. But I'm holding up something. You should be able to see it. We're going to make use of Every Man's Talmud this evening, probably. If you want a good compendium of the Talmud, according to topic, this is a intro um, to the Talmud. It's not actually perfect, but it's kind of an intro. If you want to look something up, this is at least categorized. The Talmud is not designed with the same categories we have. Um, and the other book I've mentioned before, so I'm not going to mention, I'll mention it, but a few of you purchased it, The Messianic Texts by Patai. So we're going to kind of get a start on um, and kind of get things going. I'm thinking about the updates. There really aren't that many that I'm going to go over tonight. Except that the big news is that we are going to be starting the material where we do Matthew through Jewish eyes. Now, I tried to coordinate this. All right, I'm seeing people gathering. I tried to coordinate this. We're going to do this Thursdays at 7. Now, I don't know if everyone's schedule is going to allow, and I would be willing to change schedules, but if you never start, you never get anywhere. So, not Tuesday, Thursday at 7 is a good shot. It'll be on YouTube if you miss it. We're going to be doing just an overview of Matthew anyway. Now, if there are a lot of folks that have a coordinated time that works better, again, I'm not against changing things. I have to avoid certain days. I have to avoid Fridays because they're normally outreach days. Um, and so I have to kind of avoid Fridays. Um, and I sort of want to avoid Mondays. So Thursday seems like our best bet. And so that's what we're going to shoot for. But that's the big news. The PowerPoint will be posted tomorrow so that you will have the PowerPoint as well as the actual broadcast. So you get the PowerPoint too. And so we'll be starting with that overview. But that's now a second broadcast that we're doing each week. The purpose of Matthew through Jewish eyes is one, it does demonstrate a good use of Jewish backgrounds, and two, it's more designed as an exegetical study. And I have to admit, I'm a Bible teacher as well as an apologist at heart. I really can't pick between the two. And so this gives me a chance to get more into Bible teaching and kind of feed that side of things and forces me into some exegesis. And so I'm kind of excited about that too. Um, I'm a strange fish. I love doing exegetical Bible study and I love apologetics. And I haven't really been able to choose between the two of them yet. This series was actually began to be done at a Messianic congregation. Unfortunately, I was not able to stay at the Messianic congregation long enough to finish it. And folks there kind of appreciated it. So it's good that way. Hey, I see a real familiar name. Okay, I just love a name I saw there. Someone I know. Um, So I gotta do a high here because this is so exciting to me. Let's see if this high works though, because oh yeah, oh yeah, this is really exciting. So I'm gonna stick a high up there. Not that you guys aren't exciting otherwise, but this is someone I actually know from having visited a church, ministry wise, and so I'm really kind of excited about that. Of course, my window is not windowing. So I will just do that. There we go. Okay, we're going to get into the lesson for tonight. It's a lengthy clip, so hang out with me, okay, because it's part of William Lane Craig being on the Ben Shapiro show, okay? And so it's a lengthier clip. No, it's not the whole show, but I was told about him being on the Ben Shapiro show, and I couldn't resist doing a little bit of a critique. So I had to jump in there. I'm going to be real respectful. William Lane Craig is brilliant, and he's one of the profs at my alma mater from my master's and going to be my alma mater when I finish my doctorate. Although he does not hang out with the doctoral students, he hangs out with the master's students. So I don't know about that part there. Okay, so we're going to get started with tonight's lesson and figure out why that is not showing up the way I want it to. Okay. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to do a quick check on the window capture here. Okay. And make sure, no, it looks okay. There we go. It's just one of those refresh things, but it's just kind of the way it is. Okay. So you should be getting that in a second. I'm going to give it just a second here. There we go, because I want you to see William Lane Craig's beautiful face when you hear the clip. And so I'm going to get this started for you here. And you're going to hear what he says to Ben Shapiro.
So from the Jewish perspective, this narrative has some holes in sort of Jewish philosophy. The narrative begins with the idea that Jesus appears in front of the Sanhedrin and then claims to be the Messiah. Well, there's nothing actual criminally in any of the tractates that say that if you declare yourself the Messiah, this is actually a punishable offense. Even that there are many Jews, including Bar Kokhba, who have declared themselves messianic figures.
Absolutely.
The real gap here is that in the Gospels, Jesus' vision of himself as the Messiah is completely different from the prior vision of what the Jewish Messiah is, and is actually outside the scope of how Jews describe the Messiah, or really have ever described the Messiah. The Messiah in Judaism has always been a political figure who is destined to do certain things, restoring the kingdom of Israel, maintaining control of that kingdom, bringing more Jews back to Israel. All of these things are considered sort of political things that the Messiah does. But the idea of the Messiah as embodiment of God is something that's foreign to Jewish religious philosophy going all the way back to the beginning. So even the idea that the Sanhedrin would be questioning him in those terms and would get from that what he means is, I am God, which would be a much more punishable offense, presumably that would be actual blasphemy. It's an oddity.
I think you're absolutely right in saying that Jesus' understanding of the Messiah was radically different from the prevailing cultural understanding of the Messiah among the chief priests and the common people. And he didn't meet their expectations. Indeed, that's what helped to get him crucified.
I'm going to try to do this. Okay, reconnected. All right. I'm pulling you guys up, just seeing what you got here. Okay. I'm sorry about that. This is going to happen occasionally. I have a real dislike when communication companies say this is the speed you're going to get. I wanted to go home and cry. Actually, I was at home. I wanted to just weep. I was really sad when I saw this. And there's some reasons I was really sad. Because William Lane Craig is brilliant. But one of his weaknesses is Jewish objections. And understanding the connections between Jewish thought and Christian thought. And, I wish there was some way to send him this link. I may even try. I mean, who am I that he should pay some attention? But But yet, on the other hand, I think my unique degree from his own school he teaches at might impel him to at least consider, um, you know, maybe if a miracle happens, right? But this was really sad to me because he fell victim to a real trap here. He really did. He set himself up in a bad way. And so let's talk about this because it is typical to see this sort of tactic sort of be exactly what Judaism thinks of Messiah, and exactly where Judaism today is. Um, but he should have challenged, and I realize it wasn't all about this. He should have challenged a little bit of this material. It would have been good for Ben Shapiro. He gave Ben Shapiro a reason not to believe in Jesus, uh, and an important, in a significant way. And he set it up so that any conservative Jewish people watching this have been given an excuse for not believing in Jesus. And so he really sitting there agreeing. I was just shaking my head like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, Dr. Craig, don't do it, please. And he did. So let's talk about this problem here because what Ben Shapiro is projecting is the modern view of the Messiah in Judaism. But see, here's the problem. The modern view that Messiah is a mere human political figure is not the only view in Jewish thought. And so letting Ben Shapiro say, this has always been the view forever, is letting Ben Shapiro go way too far. And what Ben Shapiro is essentially doing, and I don't know that it's an evil plan, okay, but it's a very Jewish sort of defense mechanism here, is to say, this is great, you're a great thinker, I love your theism, but, at the end of the day, you have your religion and we have ours. And so I have no real reason to consider your Jesus. It's great for you as a Gentile. But that's really bad news. So I put up the premises here, okay? Rabbinical thought is not all there is to Jewish thought. So if Jewish thought allowed for a more than human Messiah, who's a political figure, and the Second Temple period contained this stream of Jewish thought, then the Second Temple Judaism allowed for more than a mere human Messiah. And so, Ben Shapiro, you are not representing Jewish thought exactly accurately when you do this. And so, maybe there's a Jewish thought, Ben Shapiro, that you should get acquainted with, or maybe I need to ask you which Jewish thought you're thinking of. And I'm going to show you why this is so important for Jewish people, because this is really big stuff, okay, when you're talking to a Jewish person. It's the reason that Christians really need to understand the connections. There are other reasons too, okay? But let's move on, okay? Let's start at the starting point, and we'll talk a little bit more about why this is significant. This is why Dr. Michael Brown isn't invited on Ben Shapiro's show. And I challenge Ben Shapiro to have Dr. Michael Brown on, who is also a gentleman who could discuss Jewish thought and would give Ben Shapiro a little bit of a run for his money as far as what even he knows about Jewish thought. Okay, because the modern, typical knee-jerk, rabbinical, modern Orthodox Judaism thought is not all there is. And I'm getting some comments that are good. Yeah, we're going to get into some of those. So Sweet Tea raised a good point. We're going to get into those. Sweet Tea, I'll take that question at the end and explain the reading cycle. But let's talk at the very beginning here with Dr. Michael Brown, okay? Jewish tradition often describes a very highly exalted Messiah as well as a pre-existent Messiah, so much that Jewish scholars have sometimes spoken of a semi-divine or quasi-divine. I don't like the word quasi-divine so much. Nature of Messiah according to these traditions. More importantly, the Hebrew Bible speaks of Messiah's divine nature, and it must be the deciding factor in what we Jews do and do not believe. Okay? So my point is that when Ben Shapiro says Jewish thought has never accepted a Messiah that was other than a purely human political leader, he is not even speaking correctly about all of Jewish thought. I'm going to switch over here, okay? I switched over to the Targums. Guys, this is rich Bible study here. If you can access the Targums, you can access a rich source. Because the Targums were the translations of the Bible that Jesus would have been familiar with. They were read in the synagogues. Okay, now that's not looking as good as it should. I'm going to kind of tighten up a little bit here and see if that helps. Not much. Okay. Well, every so often, I'm working with inlays a little more. And so my inlays, there we go. That didn't help much. Okay. My inlays sometimes don't work quite as well as I'd like. This is the Targum. Now, the Targums are Aramaic paraphrases. When the Jews came back from Babylon, this is important Bible history here, their Hebrew was a little off. That's just so you can see the slide a little better. Their Hebrew was a little off. They weren't as well versed. And so, essentially, they had these Aramaic paraphrases that existed. Those were originally not supposed to be written down, but they were eventually written down. Now, that's why the Targums have a later writing date. So if you look up the date the Targums were compiled, you're going to get a slightly later date. But you have to realize that this is the writing down of these paraphrases that were spoken in the synagogue and then later written down. And they were even used in the synagogue in Jesus' day. So let's look at the Targum to 1 Chronicles 3:24. Anai, he of the clouds, that's just the Hebrew or the Aramaic term there. I have to see it to see which one it is, and I'm seeing it in transliteration, is King Messiah, who will in the future reveal himself. Now, what you need to understand here is this Targum being used in Chronicles really goes back to Daniel 7:13 and 14. This is a highly significant verse. By the way, it would be interesting to try this on a Muslim and pull this out on a Muslim where Daniel speaks and then where Jesus verifies Daniel. Because if they say Daniel's corrupted, I'm going to say Jesus verified Daniel. Okay. And then I could point out. Someone said something. Logos does have them in there, but they're in Aramaic. There are some transliterated ones, I believe, in the Logos library for those who are interested. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man. Now, this is why Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man. It's not accidental. There's background to this terminology. He expects Jews to be familiar with Daniel. Coming with the clouds of heaven, he came to the Ancient of Days. Now, think about that for a few minutes. I believe that to be the Father. And they brought him before him, and then to him, that's the one like the Son of Man, was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all peoples and languages should serve him, and his dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom is one which shall not be destroyed. Now that's Daniel, and that's what the Targum's referring to. See, he of the clouds. Well, where's that fit in? Well, it comes out of the verse, coming with the clouds of heaven. See, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He of the clouds is a reference back there. And so you have this verse here, and here's a Targum referring back to Daniel 7:13 and 14. Okay? Now, why is this significant? Because to him is given an everlasting dominion, and every tongue, tribe, and kindred will worship and serve the one coming in the clouds, the one like the Son of Man. And he is receiving the kingdom of God from the Father. I mean, this is really cool stuff here. All right? Now, what do we know about God and his willingness to share his glory, his name, his very nature, with some other being who is not God? And what I mean by his nature is not his attributes of moral goodness. We're supposed to be like him morally, but we're not Mormons. We're not going to have the attributes of greatness. Okay? I am the Lord. that is my name. And my glory I will not give to another, nor my praise to graven images or carved images. Isaiah 42:8. The Son of Man in that section is being given all authority and is sharing glory with the Father. That's essentially what we have there. Okay? I'm going to fix that a little bit there. That's what we have there. And so we have a Targum that is giving universal, total authority to the Son of Man. So how can you say we're talking about a mere human political leader? Okay, Ben, you have a problem here. You have a Targum with a clear reference to a scripture that's part of the Hebrew scriptures that makes Messiah more than just a mere human being, political leader. Okay? By the way, political leaders don't get their authority from God by receiving it directly from Him in heaven, being brought before Him that way. And if there were true that that was the case, I'd like to see a Jewish writing that supports that that happens for mere human beings. I don't remember that happening for King David, and I don't remember it happening for Solomon. So I would be hard-pressed to think of an instance in which that occurs. Okay, what about pre-existence? Now he quotes Pesquita Rabbah 152b. Okay? This is a rabbinic writing. By the way, the fact that it's compiled or written down a little later does not affect the validity of this, because the idea would have existed before it was written down. We have no indication that the rabbis would want to add this idea of a pre-existent Messiah after Christianity came on the scene, because they're the ones denying the divinity of Jesus who claimed to be the Messiah. So going ahead and making much out of the quasi-divinity or pre-existence of Messiah wouldn't help their case with saying Jesus had the wrong idea about who he was. And really, it wouldn't behoove them to bring their doctrine closer to what the Christians believed if they wanted to be further from it. If they regarded the Christians as heretics, they're not going to emphasize the doctrines that would lead to the conclusions that the Christians hold, I would think. Okay, unless I'm really missing something here. So let's look at this. When you couple these descriptions such as these with other traditions that speak of Messiah's pre-existence or the pre-existence of his name, and Brown's footnotes emphasize Pesquita Rabbah 152b, from the beginning of the creation of the world, King Messiah was born, for he entered into the mind of God before the world was created. By the way, if you're looking for that, that is the book, The Messianic Texts, that I pointed out before. So let me just kind of put that up there. Okay, an excellent book. This is Raphael Patai. Okay, and it's an excellent book for you to end up having. Some of you have gotten it. It's not that hard to find. I have the Wayne University text. There's some later versions of this. It's really good for pulling some of these things out. But you will find the same material in A. Cohn's Everyman's Talmud, because it references Messiah. If you go to the beginning here, there's some sections, oral law, free will, two impulses. It actually gets into some things that are very interesting for us to get into. But it gets into Messiah. And if you look it up, there's a section on Messiah's names, and you're going to find similar material in A. Cohn. So if you're looking for two witnesses to make a thing sure, Messiah's pre-existence was something that exists in the rabbinical writings. A mere human leader who pre-existed creation. Now, you're going to have a hard time pulling that one out of a hat. So, Ben, he's a mere human political leader, but he pre-existed creation. And then the last thing that we saw is he receives his authority directly from the presence of God, being in the presence of God, and receives the authority that should only belong to God. I just got to say hi to someone who can't stick around, but I'm so thrilled they're here. So thank you for being here. Okay. And I'm glad for anyone can stay as long as they can. Remember, the rest of this gets recorded on YouTube. So come on in, enjoy, have fun, and then go back and listen to the rest of it and share it with your friends. Hey guys, you can put links to this in your stuff. So I'm continually, I want to get past that 120 mark and start getting further. So click it, the subscribe, and then put links. Get people involved here because this is worthwhile and you're having fun. In fact, if they don't want to tune into one, maybe they'll want to tune into the Matthew. They get a choice. Such a deal. Okay, so let's look at another source. This is Neusner, who is far from being a believer, but he has the Babylonian Talmud. This is Baba Batra, 51a. He numbers it a little weird, a little difficult. But one of the names that Messiah will be called is the Lord our righteousness, a direct reference to Jeremiah 23:6. We've talked about Jeremiah 23:6. Some anti-missionaries and folks that raise Jewish objections don't like this being referred to Messiah, but here it is. Okay, now it does say that Jerusalem receives God's name. Yeah, because it's named after its king. And we covered that in an entire broadcast, so I won't go there. Here's again Patai. Look at this. Messiah will be called by 8 names: Yanan, Samach, Pele, which, miracle or wonder. Yoetz, counselor. Obviously Mashiach. El, he's going to be known by the name El, God. Gibor, and then eternal Father of Peace. They're really convoluting. We'd say Prince of Peace. They do eternal Father of Peace. Who do they think the eternal Father of Peace is? A political leader? Mr. Shapiro. You're telling me that Jews believe that the eternal Father of Peace, sounds like God to me, is a mere human political leader. This isn't a Christian writing. This is taken from Jewish writings. So, I know William Lane Craig wanted to posit the resurrection and really show the proof for the resurrection, and he couldn't do all this stuff. But he could have said to Shapiro, hey, I've got a few of your writings here that don't seem to indicate that Messiah is a mere political leader. First of all, he's pre-existent before the world started. Okay, Paskita Rabbah. Second, he seems to have the name of God directly associated with him, which seems that he's more than just a mere political leader. And it's not a name, it's a title, Ben, according to your rabbinical writings. Okay, those names are names, but they're names in the sense of titles. Okay? Jews didn't run around naming their kids, I am God. They might say, God remembers, okay? But I am God, that's a little bit more of a stretch. You could say to Ben, would you like to elaborate on this a little? Okay? They also ignore the priestly Messiah. See, a earthly king does not provide atonement, and the offices of king and priest were actually separated in the Hebrew Scriptures. In other words, one king tried to offer incense, and he got leprosy for his trouble. And so he seems to be more limiting Messiah to increasing Torah study, bringing political peace, and politically brings the kingdom, God's kingdom, misses the main purpose of Messiah, and makes the kingdom of God a mere political entity. Ben, this is not a mere political government we're talking about here. We're talking about Messiah did priestly things and provided atonement. Is that just a mere political leader? Okay? Messiah implements and provides atonement. He's not merely a political leader, Ben. He's the one who provides atonement for Israel. This seems more than just merely taking a throne here. So this is where we get into Isaiah 53. It is not read because there is a cycle of reading what is called the prophets, the Haftorah. Then there are the writings that are read, and the Torah is read, all 5 books of Moses, every year, one portion per week. And they tried to line up the prophets with the Torah portion, and Isaiah 53 is not read. And so this is really a problem. Now, there may be reasons why they opted out of putting that in the rotation. I'm not going to try to read their motives right now. But there were people asking questions about Isaiah 53, and it was terribly convenient for them not to have it read. So here's the Targum Yonatan 52, 14 and 15. Here's your Aramaic paraphrase. And you should be able to see 2 outlined words. See those? Okay, the second of the 2 outlined words is the word Messiah. So the Aramaic paraphrase of Isaiah 52:13 says that my servant who is mentioned in verse 13 is Messiah. That's Messiah in the Aramaic. All right? And so was Isaiah 53 understood as referring to Messiah? Well, it was in Jesus' day. There's every reason to believe it was. It certainly was immediately after that. But what about rabbinical evidence? Okay. Michael Brown, page 58, clearly the rabbi's reference to the exalting of the servant to the exalting of Messiah. Moshe Cohen ben Eben Crispin first described the highly exalted nature of Messiah in his famous midrash on Isaiah 52:13. See volume 2.3.22, and he references that. By the way, when Michael Brown references rabbinical records, he's very precise and he's very careful. So there's rabbinical evidence pointing to the intertestamental evidence that we saw in the Targums. All right? Doug Pyle put together something for Chosen People, and then Zachava Glazer edited it, and it's called "What the Rabbis Say About Mashiach." He just put the material together. He compiled it. I don't think he's taking credit for the original rabbinical writings, but that was a hobby. And by the way, Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah quotes the same thing. Okay, he shall be high exalted, Isaiah 52:13, etc. As our rabbis say, he shall be higher than Abraham, exceedingly above Adam. Okay, and this is quoting a famous rabbi. In fact, he says, you must know also that the soul of celestial splendor no created being in this world has ever been worthy to obtain. King Messiah, however, will receive it. Really, a mere political leader? Not really, Ben. So yes, you're giving us the standard line. I understand that. Could he take all this time? No, he couldn't. But he should have lightly challenged Ben Shapiro's statement that, yeah, he's always been a political leader, and Jesus's view of himself, could not have possibly, would have been highly out of line. By the way, if Jesus's view of himself was out of line, well, we'll wait on that. Okay, but there are real ramifications to this whole thing. The typical response, again, is it's Israel. Folks, all we like sheep have gone astray. I did this to a yeshiva student in a Greyhound bus at 2 in the morning. I said, really? Isaiah's including himself. How does it refer to Israel? Isaiah's considering himself one of the sheep who have gone astray. Because the yeshiva student said, yeah, it's the nasty sinners in Israel that this refers to. It's not folks like Isaiah. the sheep that have gone astray, all the we like sheep have gone astray, refers to the apostate and the ones who have backslidden in Israel. And I said, no, because look at the Hebrew with me at 2 in the morning here in the Greyhound bus, okay? And here's what we see here. We see that Isaiah is including himself. So it must be a reference to all of Israel. And who has believed our report? Who's the audience Isaiah is writing to? Israel. By the way, pay attention to that when you read Isaiah 53. The audience is Israel. Okay. We're getting near the end of things a little bit here. And I'm trying to kind of see where things are at. Okay. But let's talk about why this is kind of important. Because I don't want to leave without getting into this a little bit. Christian apologists tend to want to make Christian thought totally exclusive, as if it was influenced by nothing else. Now, in a lot of cases, this is good. Okay? The problem with this is it can also not be so good. They also fail to acknowledge that Christianity began as a sect of Judaism. We need to understand that. God's plan was to create a worldwide church, but the body, the movement, the system that Christianity arose out of was Judaism. It was not rabbinical Judaism, okay? But it was still a form of Judaism. So let's keep moving on here. Well, how do I know this? Why would I think that the apostles and the followers of Jesus who were at the beginning were influenced by Jewish thought? Well, because to the Jews were entrusted the oracles of God in reference to the scriptures. I didn't say it, Paul said it. By the way, it doesn't say to the Israelites, it says to the Jews. That's a little throw out for the black Hebrew Israelites, okay? Because I say we're not the Jews, we're the original Israelites. Well, you know what? Paul doesn't talk about the original Israelites. He uses the term Jews. If they're two separate people, the black Hebrew Israelites are out anyway. Okay? Where do I get the idea that Christianity started as a sect of Judaism? When Paul perceived that part of them were Sadducees, the other part Pharisees, he cried out to the council, "Men and brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee, concerning the hope and resurrection of the dead." Okay? Now, I am a Pharisee in the Greek. Eimi ego Pharisaios. It's in the present tense. Now, Paul is already saved. He's giving testimony because he's been spreading the gospel. So, as a gospel-believing follower of Jesus, he says he is still a Pharisee because he didn't regard himself being a Pharisee as being a total contradiction to his faith in Messiah. Now, there's going to be a parting of the ways, but that hasn't happened yet. Okay, now why does this get important? I'm going to go to my closing slide and make some closing remarks here because I think this is really, really important here that we end up a Pharisee of Pharisees. That is correct. So I'm going to that closing page. Here's the problem that I see. Okay? When you go ahead and do this sort of thing, why would a bunch of Jewish disciples go ahead and follow a belief that they thought was antithetical to everything that God had given their forefathers and what they understood of those scriptures? Now, admittedly, Jesus gave them a new understanding, but it was not antithetical to what they had received before. They would have said, "What gives? We know this doesn't say this. Please explain to us how you arrive at this." And so I don't see any reason. The other thing is, the other problem that you end up receiving, as you look at this and you totally make this discontinuitous, is Jesus goes ahead and reveals himself as Messiah. They're looking for a Messiah. Jesus says, "I'm more than what you expect," but he doesn't say, "I'm the opposite of what you expect. I won't rule. I won't reign. I won't be a political leader in any way, shape, or form. No, I'm more." Buffering seems to, okay, reconnected successful, good. Okay, I'm showing that we're reconnected, so I'm going to pretend that we are here, and there might just be a little delay, and but it's really important for continuity. These disciples didn't think they were joining a new religion. So if you do that, you end up disassociating things, and you really make the New Testament scriptures not a clear understanding, but you end up making the New Testament antithetical to the Old. You also give guys, and understand this, no Jewish person, regardless of the resurrection, is going to accept the resurrection means that Jesus is the Messiah if it's antithetical to everything he's received. So he's given Ben Shapiro and other Jews an excuse for not believing that I would never give them. So, well, it could be that the Lord's telling us that we've run out of time tonight, because it seems like he's kind of pulling the plug. So I don't quite know what's going on here. Well, I was going to take some questions here, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to leave this here and hope that this still ends up coming in. We're not getting it again. We've gotten a critical place here. Oh, I don't know. I'm showing green. So I don't quite know what's going on. I'm going to check. Alrighty. Well, I can't answer for the technology. Okay, good. That helps. Because I'm showing some greens here, but I'm showing my screen stilling. So it's probably just the connection here in YouTube. This is why this is so important. It made me really want to cry. Because my people were pushed further from the gospel. That everything that has been said about Christianity being a foreign religion and not kosher for them got played into. And really, the connection between what Jesus teaches his disciples and what was already out there doesn't work. So I'm going to call it a night here. It looks like some folks are dropping off, but I'm glad that Star Blaze got to make it in the house. And I'm sorry for the end of things being a little anticlimactic. But it looks like we're kind of losing stuff here with folks kind of dropping. And although the stream says good, so I don't know. I'm going to say thanks. And I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. And the rest of it should make its way back on. Okay. Oh, okay. Nate has a question. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, Nate asked a question, so I'm going to try and answer it. Just real quick. So I'm typing an answer to Nate real quick. So I'm answering Nate here. I'm going to put a quick here because I really want to answer this. So thanks for hanging in, Nate. Hopefully you're still there to get your answer. I'm just kind of moving up here to see. Okay. I hope that answered the question on the floor. Okay, well, oh, okay.